Welcome, everybody. This is Larry Green, a board-certified dermatologist in the Washington, D.C. area. And welcome to this water cooler session podcast. And this podcast is on mentorship, the importance of mentorship. And I've enjoyed doing my podcast previously, and I thank all of you who have accessed the podcasts in the past. We're doing really well, and since this is taped, it's a great thing. It's taped live, and people are welcome to join in. But I think what's working out is people are enjoying accessing the podcast at their leisure in this water cooler series, and that's something that I much appreciate. And please again provide feedback, and you're welcome to email us and write us. And you can always give feedback at www.aestheticwatercooler.com/Dr.-Larry-Green-feedback. That's www.aestheticwatercooler.com/Dr.-Larry-Green-feedback, or dash instead of hyphen, whatever you want to call it. We look forward to hearing from you and what you have to say. As everyone knows, I'm a dermatologist, and like I said, in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a clinical professor of dermatology at George Washington University School of Medicine. I've been in practice for well over 20 years. So things have changed since I've joined. I've been in my private practice, and I teach at George Washington two or three Friday mornings a week, skin surgery. So that's a volunteer position. But I've been in private practice for a long time, and glad to share some of what I've learned. I don't know if you want to call it wisdom, but it's certainly experience. And tonight, we're going to talk about the experience of mentorship. And before we do that, I do want to thank Equa Marketing, the leaders in digital marketing for dermatologists, for sponsoring this water cooler series. Equa has done a magnificent job in putting all this together and archiving it so you can listen. And I think we should all try and thank Equa and look up Equa for their marketing needs. So let's talk about mentorship. Why is it important? This topic is the importance of mentorship. Why do we need mentors? Why do we want to be a mentor? Why is it important? Well, if you think about it, we're bred into mentorship. I think the first thing to talk about when you talk about mentorship is that we're mentored from day one. Our parents are our mentors. Our caretakers are our mentors. So mentorship really is part of daily life, and we don't even realize it when we're children. We're not ready to be mentors, but certainly we're mentees, and we're bred into being a mentor, or bred into mentorship by being a mentee of our caretakers. And that's something we can't get away from. So the importance of mentorship, it's such an important social aspect of our society, is the mentee-mentor relationship, that it comes from parenthood, my opinion. And that doesn't mean when we grow up, it's over, because of course we want to usually we stay in contact with our caretakers, those who raised us, as long as we can, as much as we can. They're not going to be with us forever. And you certainly want to take advantage of the time that they're here on this earth with us. But it just shows that, no one does anything alone. And this is a recurring theme, basically, throughout my Aesthetic Water Cooler podcast series, is that doing stuff alone is not satisfying. You want to be with someone, or with some buddies, with a group, because that's what society means. And that's how we succeed as humans, as society, not anarchy. We succeed in society. And the mentor-mentee relationship is part of the backbone, I think, of being a human and being a social human, not an anarchist human living by him or herself. We work with others. We want to give back. We want to learn ourselves. And the mentee-mentorship relationship really never stops. It's something that we do, even if you're 90, you have mentors. And if you're, I don't know about if you're a child, but I'm sure even if you're a teenager, you'll have mentees. to some degree, that those younger than you who are going to benefit from the experience that you have. Now, as physicians and specifically dermatologists, sometimes we're like, well, I've done the mentee-mentor relationship, and I've talked about this before in earlier podcasts. I don't need to be the social human. I don't need to mentor anyone. I don't need to be a mentee to anyone or have someone mentor me, because I just can open up my shingle or go work for so-and-so big group dermatology and put in my hours 8 to 5 and go home and watch TV or read books or play sports and not worry about anything else. But it's not really like that. I mean, and we've talked time and time again, though, about how going alone and not getting involved will get you nowhere in life. And the social society way is how we progress as human beings. This is the reason why we live in a civilized society with like we do in the United States. So being a mentee, being a mentor starts from parenthood and from childhood to parenthood and vice versa. And that's something we do our whole lives. If you're a parent now, you're a mentor. You don't even realize it. So even if you're trying to be alone, but you're not alone because you have a spouse and you have children. So mentee-mentor relationship, I think, is just inherent in our society. But I want to talk more specifically how it affected me, how I've been a mentee or mentor during my life, and specifically honing in on medicine, not society in general. Of course, I've been a child. I was raised by parents who are still my mentors, and I have children who I mentor, and I even learn from my children, though. That said, but I'm the mentor for the children. But we're gonna stick to physician mentorship, menteeship, and being involved with the physician community. And like I said, doctors are not very likely to do it. Doctors don't think about doing it. We don't think about working with others necessarily, but it's something that's very important. Being a mentor, mentee, etc., is something that helps gets us to where we are today. Certainly helped get me to where I am today, or where I have been today. And we're going to talk about it. I'm going to just basically talk about my experience, because what else? Can't talk about someone else's experience as a mentee mentor, but we'll try and use what happened to me, what's gone through my life, and you can compare it to what you have experienced in your life. And I bet you'll see there's sort of parallel, because we all go through this mentor-menteeship thing in our lives, since we're part of society. And I want you to think about it as I talk about what's happened with me and my mentors, and how I've been a mentee to them, and how I've been mentors to others as I get older and more experienced, and see how it applies to you. See the parallels that you can create from what I'm talking about. So I'll start with school before being a physician, but we can include medical school in a second. But when we're younger, after our parents, what is the next mentor-mentee relationships that we have? Our teachers in elementary school. That's a mentor-mentee relationship. What teachers do you remember from elementary school or high school or junior high school who made a difference in your life, who took some time and taught you something that you still remember this day to do? Everyone has that, I'm sure. Someone to remember, someone that they taught you even way back in kindergarten, going all the way up through high school or college. What do you remember? You know, there's that teacher who taught you how to write and took you for special hours. I had a teacher who really spent some time teaching me how to write, which I didn't get so well in my public high school in Youngstown, Ohio, who took the time and helped me out. That made a big difference. What teacher helped you with an issue that you were having? You know, I'm sure everyone has a story to tell about them being mentored and they were a mentee when they were in school. This is what teachers do. I mean, professors and teachers. I remember a professor I had, I was an English major at the University of Michigan, And I remember a professor I had who took the time to help me write my honors thesis. And to this day, he also helped me learn how to write better and be a better writer. But took the time out, and I was happy to be a mentee. And writing is so essential. In fact, I think something that some doctors lack, um, that I use to this day. I mean, I'm not writing books, I'm not writing thesis, but writing a thesis and writing a medical manuscript have certain parallels. You go in a format and you want to go based on your research. You have to do the research and delve into doing research. And of course, research is much easier to do today than it was when I was in undergraduate school or even medical school. We didn't have Google to give us everything. Back then, we had to go to something called a library and look up books and sort and find sources that way. And it was much more difficult than it is now. But still, you know what? You still have to find your sources. That's the bottom line. So I learned how to do that and write a paper, and that's has helped me throughout my life because I write many papers now and I edit many papers that are published in medical journals. And to this day, what I learned in college and back in high school, I use from my mentors. And I'm sure everyone listening has similar stories to talk about. We also have older classmates, in college and more specifically for me in medical school, who made a difference in my life. What about the third or fourth year who helped you through first or second year, gave you books that we used and told you how to prepare more for a class? How many of you guys remember that happening when you were in medical school? That's something that helped get me through medical school. I'm sure as we were mentees and they were mentors, and then we could pay them back when we were the third and fourth years. Did you give your books to someone? Did you help someone prepare for a class? So that mentor-mentee relationship it's essential in learning. It's essential in life, like I mentioned, and it's essential in growing up, social norms that we have with parenthood. But it's something that we don't even realize we're doing, like I mentioned, and we're doing it over and over. Okay, and you can't do it yourself. You have to have someone to do it with. You can't be a mentee to yourself. You can't be a mentor to yourself. It's getting involved, getting to know people, and learning from them. We can always learn from someone. That's part of the mentor-mentee relationship thing. That's, I think, most important. We'll keep coming back to that. What have you learned? What have you gained from your mentors? What have you imparted to your mentees? We probably don't realize what we're imparting to our mentees when you think about it, but we're, as an older person, as I get older, it's the experience we have, and you don't even realize how your experience can make a difference. And that's part of the mentor-mentee relationship. It's not always often age difference, but it's experience difference in a certain thing. And that's the difference. The mentor is experienced. The mentee lacks that experience or wants to gain more experience. Oftentimes it's age related, but not always. So let's talk about, I'm going back to me, I'm going to talk more about myself. When I was in medical school, we talked about the older classmates and sharing notes and help preparing for classes. But my first mentor, dermatologist, was a gentleman at my medical school. And of course I won't forget him. He does not even probably consider himself a mentor for me. He doesn't even know the difference he made in my career choice and why I became a dermatologist was because of him. And oftentimes mentors don't realize the like I said, the experience they're imparting to their mentees. I had a gentleman who was a young dermatologist at the time, and he was on faculty where I went to medical school, junior faculty member. And he convinced me to become a dermatologist. Because of him, I went into the field of dermatology. I had psoriasis on my elbows and knees. Psoriasis, we all know, is a skin condition. And I had elbow and knee psoriasis at that time. And I remember I went to him and he gave me creams and cortisone shots into my elbows and knees, and the shots worked the best. But talking with him and him spending the time to talk with me about the field really piqued my interest in dermatology. And he didn't have to spend the time talking with me or showing me around the clinic like he did. What dermatology meant, what dermatologists do, but he did. And I think he did it just because I expressed an interest in it. I don't think he was trying to be a mentor per se, but he was. You don't always realize when you're a mentor to somebody. I do see him occasionally at our American Academy of Dermatology meetings, and I haven't seen him in a few years, but we always catch up when we do see each other. Um, but he was why I'm here right now today doing this Aesthetic Water Cooler Series podcast. Got me into dermatology. So think about as you listen to this, think about what you've experienced through schooling, and through your parents. And that's the basis, I think, of having the mentee-mentor relationship and the importance of mentorship. Where would you be if you didn't have those mentors in your school? Where would your life have taken you? All these rhetorical questions lead to a lot of thought, because the paths we take are really, I think, a lot is determined by our mentors and the guidance that they give us. Starting with our parents are our caretakers. And in school, when you're in college and medical school, you move away from your parents. You find other mentors as you become adults, because the parental mentorship, mentee mentorship is before we go off to college. How many of you had a mentor when you were a dermatology resident, or whatever field of medicine you're in? How many of you had nice faculty that sort of took you under the wing and took care of you, and not just took care of you, but you knew they were looking out for you? That's the way it's better phrased. We're there to help you. When I was a resident at the University of California, Irvine, I had just a few faculty who, not just one, a few faculty who I really felt I learned a lot from in different ways. First was my former chairman at the time, the chairman of the Department of Dermatology at the time. He was an excellent mentor for clinical research, for psoriasis. This is the reason why I do clinical research today, because of that gentleman. And he passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago, and he is missed. But I'm sure he didn't realize that the impression he made on me as a mentee, because I wouldn't be doing all the clinical research that I do in my practice today if not from his passion for clinical research and what I learned from him doing clinical research. And he was a great program chair, very nice. Nice to me and my wife, always nice. He and his wife always made the residents, the dermatology trainees they had at that time, feel like part of the family, their family. He didn't have to do that. But I think that's important, because it makes you more likely to do what you feel comfortable doing. It points you in direction and gives you guidance in life. But also having a mentor, it's like, in a way, having a parent. It makes us feel safe and secure and ready to go to the next step. And it's hard to progress unless you feel safe in the shoes you're wearing to go and take a step onto the next precipice. So I keep going over different reasons why the mentee-mentor relationship is very important, but it really helps. Bottom line, it helps guide us in life. So this chairman piqued my interest in clinical research, and also he knew I was interested in psoriasis, and that was his expertise. That's why one of the reasons why I went to that training program. But it went much beyond that. And it certainly went, like I said, clinical research was really piqued in the way he examined patients. I used to follow him. He had a private practice clinic the residents could go to occasionally, and to see the way he did his examinations on patients and listen to the patient and learn from the patients. And that's something to this day I still incorporate a lot of. Another faculty at UC Irvine made an impression on me in other ways. I learned other things from other faculty and other things I do in life. And as a dermatologist these days, I think it made a big difference as well. So that sort of summarizes that's sort of the story of my mentorship schooling. When I think about mentorship in life, we're going to talk about professional mentorship, what's happened in my life in a second. But let me summarize. that I think mentorship starts with parents and your caretaker, and you're growing up. And we're the mentees in the start, but as we get older, or not, I keep saying older, as we get more experienced, we can become the mentors more and more, because mentorship is about experience. Being a mentee is about gaining from the experience of the mentor, making us feel safe and more secure in our endeavors and what we're doing, so we can more easily take the next step. And that's what schooling is all about. That's what being raised and growing up is all about. It's having mentors to make us feel safe so we can take the next step. So mentorship is ubiquitous. How important is it? We wouldn't be where we are in our society without it. You can't go alone. You wouldn't be it's hard to be a person who succeeds in society or is part of a society without being part of a mentor-mentee relationship multiple times. So what about my professional life? Well, you become a dermatologist, you can certainly forego the mentor-mentee relationship if you want and open up your private practice or work for someone and just put in your shift hours. And outside professional life, like I said, if you're raising children, you're still in the mentor-mentee relationship to some degree, but I'm going to hone in on professional mentor-mentee relationships now. You don't have to do that. You've become a board certified dermatologist. You can just do your shift work. But I would submit to you that if you do that, you'll go nowhere in life, or you won't have as much. I don't know. Well, that's a little harsh. I won't say you won't go nowhere in life, but you won't gain as much life experience. Do you have to gain life experience? No. But we're physicians. We want to constantly learn. We want to constantly be the best we can for our patients. And I would submit to you that without continuing to be a mentee or a mentor, and within our specialty as physicians, we will not be as good physicians for our patients. And that's what I want you to think about as we continue in this podcast. Being part of the dermatologist or physician community means continuing as a mentee and a mentor in our professional lives. Because if you don't do that and you put your head in the sand, you won't gain the life experience to be the best dermatologist you can for your patients. That's what we want to do. That's what we talked about all in our last segment is being the best physician we can for our patients. And that's what mentor-mentee relationships are. They help us get that life experience. So they're someone to bounce ideas off. And like I said, they make us able to feel safe so that we can move on to the next step in our careers. It's hard to move up if we don't have a mentor. And giving back and being a mentee to someone, well, that's good too. But when you think about it, especially in our professional lives, other than school, we're mentees to our mentors, and there's not much we give back. The mentor can learn a little bit from the mentee, but to a lesser degree. But in professional life, it really goes both ways, because we're really dealing with our peers. And the mentor-mentee relationship only doesn't quite go so far to a peer. We're both learning from each other. The American Society of Dermatologic Surgery, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, has a great mentor-mentee relationship program called the Future Leaders Network, and I've enjoyed being part of that program over the years. But from that, I've learned so much from my mentees in that program. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and then maybe that's a little teaser. But I want to backtrack and talk about professional life mentor-mentee relationships and building, and what that's happened to me. One of the first mentors I had in my professional life, where I wanted to branch out beyond my solo private practice and try and continue to be the best dermatologist I could for my patients, was a gentleman, a former president of the American Academy of Dermatology, and he wasn't president at that time. but who got me involved with something called the RUC, the Resource Update Committee, which is a committee of the American Medical Association. But basically, Congress the AMA, Congress has given the AMA, American Medical Association, license to get this group of doctors together called the RUC, and the Resource Update Committee, and that basically determines the prices. That group determines the prices Medicare pays for every thing we do for patients. Every code we use is priced based on RUC recommendations. Usually, this CMS, Medicare doesn't have to accept it, but usually they accept the recommendation of this RUC committee. And the gentleman I'm speaking about was one of the dermatology representatives to the RUC. And again, that's the group that sets all prices throughout the country of every single procedure and offices that we do. And I was involved with a new laser, had a new laser that was used to treat psoriasis, and a code was, we needed to get a code through the RUC to see how much was going to be paid. That whole process was a huge gap. I knew nothing about the RUC and how prices were set prior to that, but it was a huge learning experience. This gentleman, I don't know if he realized he was a mentor to me. I still don't know to this day if he realized was, but I learned so much about the process of the way dermatology works, how to prepare to speak to the RUC, the type of questions they'll ask. It helps prepare you for life, because you have to give I was the one for this proposed code to see what was going to get paid for this laser treatment of psoriasis. I was presenting on this code. And basically, from what I said, this whole RUC group was going to determine how much the payment would be for that code. So you want to say the right things. If you say the wrong things, they're not going to know enough. And what type of research do you have to do to say the right things? All these things were honed into me, and I learned I had a mentor that showed me the path. And I would never have been able to take the step to sit before this group or to present before this group of physicians that make up the RUC that determine the price for a procedure that will be that price for years to come for that procedure. And every single procedure in offices that we have today, someone went up and presented to this RUC committee to get an amount of money that it's going to be paid. So that's a lot of responsibility, but the preparation was there. I couldn't have done it without having a mentor. And this gentleman made a big difference in my life in terms of, and then that showed me what the world of dermatology really is. That was my eye-opening, where the door sort of opened, where I got my head out of the outside the sand, outside the walls of my private practice. And I learned started to learn, I should say, what was out there. And I did great as presenting for the RUC. I was very well prepared. About preparation, my mentor prepared me very well. And the code is doing fine to this day. I can talk about someone a mentor helped me, another gentleman a former president of the American Academy of Dermatology also, who I got to know over these last probably 15 plus years, like the other gentleman. He really showed me the way about the importance of advocacy in our specialty. What happens if you don't advocate for your specialty? And that's something is my passion in dermatology right now. This man started all that. Again, eye-opening. I had no idea what groups are up against us that want us to make life more difficult for us as physicians and pass regulations and laws that will make it much more difficult for us to help our patients, to see patients, to create less time seeing patients. There's more paperwork involved, create regulations where people who aren't really qualified are practicing medicine or things that we do. All these things are happening around us all the time. And I had no idea how to do all this and what was involved without the help of this gentleman who had a lot of experience. So he was a fantastic mentor for me. I'm sure he doesn't even realize it. in this situation. Mentors don't always realize, and parents don't realize that for the same reason, going back to the parental thing, but they have no idea the impression you made. You have no idea the impression you made on children and what they remember and think about and how they've made a difference in your life. Same thing with these mentors. But I learned so much. And I think now my advocacy, my passion is for being an advocate for my patients and my specialty and the physicians doctors in general in the country. I mean, you just can't do it on your own. You don't know. You don't have the basis of knowledge. You need an experienced mentor. He was that experienced mentor. I can give you a lighter mentor. I mean, you can even go down this path. I have a gentleman this gentleman's, wow, what a great mentor he's been just in general, life experience. But I'll point out one specific thing he's been a mentor for me is in wine. I didn't know much about wine. Growing up, I didn't really drink it in college, and appreciation for the fine taste of wine. This gentleman knows wine, and I tried to learn from him when we were at meetings together. He was so nice. A lot of times at these meetings, the only wine that comes with the meal is an inexpensive bottle, and he would take it upon himself to say, "No, don't bring that bottle. I can't drink it. I don't want anyone at this table drinking." He would himself purchase a nicer bottle of wine for everyone to have at the dinner or the lunch. Usually dinner, not lunches, that we have wine. And then he sat down and told me about the finer points of wine and what to look for. And because I expressed interest in it, I wanted to learn from his experience. So a mentor for me in wine tasting and the appreciation of wines, which I, to this day, I still think I'm a novice when it comes to wine, but I was way worse before I learned from this gentleman. This gentleman also has done more for me than just wine. I mean, he's a great mentor. He's given me advice in career paths and how to navigate the politics of our specialty, and he's really, and he himself is one of the founders of our specialty, and the fathers of our specialty, I should say, made a huge difference. To this day, I look forward to every opportunity I have to learn from this gentleman. So a mentor can be anything. It can be in wine. It doesn't have to be professionally necessarily. I was talking about professionally. I changed to something as simple as wine. I can add one more mentor that I've had as a very good friend for many years. Last time, again, 15 plus years, who I've known, who's a master. He's not a physician, but he's a master of networking and getting to know people and shaking hands. And he's a hugely successful businessman. And the connections he makes all the time just never cease to amaze me, because you never know where it's going to lead. And he's right. Always get names and numbers and keep in touch with people, and he's a master networker. We've talked about networking in previous Aesthetic Water Cooler podcast, but my mentor in networking is this gentleman. And I don't think I would be where I am, on the board of directors of the American Academy of Dermatology, or previously have been on the board of directors of the American Society for Dermatologic Surgery, and on the medical board of the National Psoriasis Foundation, on the board of the National Psoriasis Foundation, on the board of several charities, without learning from this gentleman. You don't get on, I want to get involved, yes, but you can't do it on your own. You have to network. You have to get to know people. You have to keep people in mind. You have to keep in touch with people. Networking is key. So this gentleman has made a huge difference in my life about learning from networking. It's led to business success for him. And I've seen over the years how this happens, but I've tried to translate what he's done into what I can do as a dermatologist. So let me summarize professional networking then. I mean, or professional mentorship. It is in networking, but I've had a mentor in networking. I've had mentors professionally in being an advocate, and I've had mentors who have really taught me about how things happen in medicine and dermatology, how prices are made, and all the work that goes in to so we can become the best we can, the best doctors for our patients, and have the most amount of time to spend for our patients, and the work that continues to be done because people are always trying to make life more difficult for us and our patients. Not on purpose necessarily, they're trying, but this is what happens. People don't realize. So all these mentors have made a big difference in my life. Now, what about being a mentee? I mean, being a mentor to someone else and being the mentee, to having another mentee. So as we get more experience, it's going to become more common that we do that. I won't say aging and getting older, because a lot of times they go hand in hand, but not necessarily. The Future Leaders Network of the American Society for Dermatologic Surgery is based on the mentor-mentee relationship. That is, I think, the best program that is out there for dermatologists to learn from each other and to have mentor-mentee relationships. I've been a mentor twice in this program so far, and it's probably 10, 12 years it's been in existence. And I've had two excellent mentees. These are young dermatologists who want to learn from their mentors, but basically they do a project on themselves. The mentor take on a project, and the mentor is there to advise them. But these people are smart, so smart, and they accomplish a lot. Now they're becoming the mentors. Based on this program, some of the young people I was a mentor for are now the mentors for younger mentees, over the last, since this program's been in existence for 12 years, around 10, 12 years. So the mentees become the mentors, and they pass on what they've learned to people, who are just starting out in private practice or in dermatology practice, I should say. And it's paying it forward, the next generation. Because a mentor, in this situation, you're a mentor and you know you're the mentor. Your job is to be a mentor for a mentee, and that's fine, because I learn from my mentees. That's the best part for me as a mentor, so much from these young dermatologists. But they learn from us. We have a lot of experience. We know how to set up whatever project they want to do. We have the connections to get them to the right people to make that project happen. That's what a mentor has. And if you're networking, you're getting all that. You do have all these connections. So mentors encourage these people and the mentee, and that's how these people get to the next place. So we talked about how I think a mentor helps the mentee feel safe so they can move up in their career and get to the next place. Because you got to be safe before you move on to the next step. It's hard to just take risk without having some solid footing and move on to the next step. So I'll give you an example from the Future Leaders Network. 3 of the original mentees in the program 10, 12 years ago were just elected to the board of directors of the ASDS as I rotated off the board of directors. They were elected. The next generation is already happening. So these mentees moved up, and they were secure enough. They learned so much that they now are taking the next step and becoming the board of directors. And they're also mentors to, like I said, a younger generation of mentees, making a big difference. But I think in life, though, that's a defined mentor-mentee relationship. But I think in life, though, like I said, you don't always realize who you're the mentor for. These people who are my professional mentors, whether it be for wine or advocacy or how to network or knowing how the backbone, the skeleton of physician payment reform and all that goes on works. These guys probably don't even have no idea that they were mentors for me and how much I learned from them. So the mentor doesn't even know that the mentee is gaining from them. But again, you have someone with life experience, but you can't go to the next step without having mentors. And the mentor doesn't, like I mentioned, doesn't have to know that they're doing that. Just by doing what we're doing as we gain more life experience and socially interacting with those with less life experience, you gain a lot. Now, I've had mentee-mentor relationships I've had through social media. I mean, those people are a lot of times most of them are younger than me, but I've learned a lot about social media and been a mentee to these younger mentors. So it's not always age, but oftentimes it is, but it's life experience that makes a difference. That defines the mentor-mentee relationship. So I guess I'll summarize, and this is a shorter podcast, Aesthetic Water Cooler podcast, but I guess I'll summarize and then open up to questions. I think that the mentor-mentee relationship is essential to living well, being professionally competent, and remaining professionally competent. We're raised from our parents when we're younger. There are mentors. We have teachers who are mentors. We have teachers who are mentors in from elementary school through high school, through undergraduate school, through medical school. Residency mentors, and those mentors are primarily help us become more learned and more knowledgeable and prepared for life to be a physician. But once we hit professional life, the mentors can be, mine have mostly been dermatologists, but that's who I interact with. But they teach us more than how to be prepared to see patients. They teach us about how we can be the best doctors for our patients. They teach us about life, how we can get involved, how we can help our specialty, how we can make a difference in what will help our patients for years to come. That's what happens. And we can learn a lot from them. The mentee-mentor relationship in professional life, like I said, goes both ways, most often, I think. But mentorship is an essential way that we get ahead in life, and way we become involved, the way we are social people, and the way we make a difference in the world. And I don't think you can't do it without mentorship, menteeship. And I'll end at that. And before we open it up to questions, I do want to thank everyone who's listened in, who has archived this and has listened to this podcast, this Aesthetic Water Cooler series. And please feel free to ask us questions, be engaged. This is an open forum for you to ask questions, even though you're listening to this on an archive. And to give feedback, again, www.aestheticwatercooler.com/dr Dr. Larry Green feedback. Please feel free to do that. And again, I want to thank Equa Marketing, who are the leaders in digital marketing for dermatologists, for sponsoring this Aesthetic Water Cooler. The series is winding down. We just have one more left remaining. I very much enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed working with Equa Marketing. Equa Marketing, every dermatologist, I think, would be very lucky to have Equa Marketing on their side and working with Equa Marketing, because they really know what they're doing. And they know the importance of all the things that we've talked about in my podcast. These topics, I've worked on with Equa Marketing, and they realize how important it is for us to keep going in life, how to achieve in life, make achievements in life, gain more life experience. And that's why through Equa, we've been able to do these podcasts and learn from each other, and how these topics are so important in our life. So I want to thank them very much. So again, feel free to ask questions, and I want to thank you for listening. And next month will be our last water cooler. It'll be about finding your niche. And we've talked about ways to find your niche. It's a great way to end the water cooler series on my part, talk about finding your niche. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
You talk about having relationships with some people that were mentors but weren't an official mentor. How do you cultivate those relationships to get the most out of those?
Well, I think to me, I think those are, well, I don't want to say most important, but that's where I've really gained a lot, is to having these mentors who don't even know they were mentors to me. And I don't know who I've been if I've been mentored anyone, I'm sure I have. You cultivate them by showing interest and being ready to learn and to take the next step, because they make you feel safe where you are, so you can take the next step, and they'll show you and help you get to the next step. and where you want to go from and where you want to learn or advance professionally. So I say that the way you do that is just by showing interest and by interacting with them. And that's what I always did, is I showed interest in what they wanted to talk about and asked a lot of questions and asked how I could move to the next step, to move from my current safe place to a new place, which hopefully be my eventually current safe place, new current safe place. But you can't get to that step without being safe and known. So they help move you along. And so you just have to show interest.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else you can think of asking before we wrap up?
No, I think that covers it.
Good. I hope this was helpful again for everyone. I've enjoyed this, and we will see you on the first Monday in December, which I believe is the 2nd of December, to talk about finding your niche. So thank you. I guess you can turn off the recording.
I hadn't claimed host, so it'll just turn off when we disconnect from Zoom.
Okay, I didn't claim host either. So I don't know. Was that okay?
Yep, that was great. You made it well past you said you'd be lucky to get to 8:30. It's 8:38. So.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes you start talking, but I hope people like this one. I mean, it's more obvious and there's less to say about it, but hopefully they'll realize the importance of, people don't even realize how how they've had mentors in their lives. And like I said, they have made a difference. They don't even realize it, importance of it. But anyway, did that resonate? Like all that stuff saying, think about, when I said, think about your life, I hope that people do.
Yes, it did. I think it would resonate with anybody, no matter what their profession.
All right, good. Well, thanks, Lila, for the encouraging words. And thanks for supporting the Nationals. I'm so excited.
Unfortunately, my power was out for most of that, so I didn't get to watch it. But
I watched Game 7. So the story for me is, I think we talked in October. The last water cooler series was the first game against the Dodgers, and I missed some because I was doing the water cooler. So I went to one of the games against the Dodgers when they were at home. That game was away, and they lost that game. But then I went to a game against the Cardinals in the second series, and that was when they clinched and they won the pennant, the National League. That was so cool to see. In the World Series, I was away. I mean, it had to be in Vegas, Chicago, it's in Amsterdam, in Israel. I had meetings all over the place. So I couldn't go to any of the games that were here for the World Series, which is a real bummer. And I'm still bummed about it. But they lost all the games they played at home. But Game 7, I got home for just as Game 7 was starting. And so I watched it on TV. It was very exciting when they won. And the parade, I unfortunately missed on Saturday. But it was still fun. I mean, your hometown doesn't win the World Series that often. So you got to remember it.
Yes, this one, at least locally, everybody's talking about the World Series because it was the 30th anniversary of the Loma Prieta, when it was the Bay Bridge series. And so lots on the news about that one. Trip down memory lane.
Yeah, 1989. That's right. The A's and the
Giants.
Giants. Giants won that series. I remember that because that was when they had an earthquake.
Athletics won.
Oh, the A's won? I thought the Giants won. Oh, I guess I remember wrong. But I remember they had an earthquake during that World Series.
Yes.
Right?
Game 2.
Yeah.
I am and always will be an athletics fan, so that was during the heyday, the Bash Brothers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're all on steroids, but yeah.
Yes, true, but we didn't know that at the time.
No, we didn't know that then. We didn't know that. So
those two got me hooked on baseball.
Yeah, the A's are a good team now to follow. They're moving to a new stadium. It'll be in a better neighborhood. And
we'll see. They have their ups and their downs.
They do. They had a good team. They made the playoffs.
Yes, they did. So, but every time they get up, they stumble. So
I know. You know what? They had a successful season. They won a lot of games. But yeah, it's not as satisfying as if you don't win the whole thing. And by the way, I've gone crazy since the Nationals won. I probably spent like $400 on clothing stuff for me and my family. Commemorating first was when the Nationals won, just getting Nationals gear because we didn't have much, and then now we have all these World Series T-shirts I got for the whole family and a banner and all the stuff I wasted money.
But anyway, have all the fun stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, Lila. So I will talk to you on the 2nd and look forward to that and see what we come up with for the last water cooler thing. And thank you for your help.